Have you ever heard the term Pax Romana? It just means the peace of Rome. And it was the mantra, the heartbeat of the Roman Empire in my time. My name's Pilate. You might know me as Pontius Pilate. Pax Romana, the peace of Rome, is the reason I became a Roman governor. To administer the peace of Rome. To lead the peace of Rome. And when necessary, to enforce the peace of Rome. Pax Romana is the reason I became a governor. It's the reason that I was stationed in Jerusalem. Jerusalem wasn't the most popular assignment among us as governors. After all, it's really hard to administer peace, lead peace, enforce peace upon a people who don't want the peace that Rome has to offer. And that was a pretty good description of the Hebrew people. They didn't really want the peace that Rome had to offer. It was always a challenge. Day after day, all year, it was a challenge accomplishing the peace of Rome, the Pax Romana in Jerusalem. But once a year, it became extremely difficult. Once a year, the population of Jerusalem would swell. Millions of Hebrew people coming into the city to celebrate Passover. It was the commemoration of their exodus, their freedom from Egypt, hundreds and hundreds of years before my time. And so many of them came into town expectant that their Savior, who they called the Messiah, would soon come and throw off their Roman occupation the way that he had once thrown off their Egyptian slaveholders. They came in with dreams of deposing myself, of deposing Caesar. And it was very difficult to maintain Pax Romana. You would have thought I was Pharaoh or something. But all I wanted was peace. Does that sound like anybody you know? Don't you want peace? Don't you just want peace in your life? Don't you just want peace in your world? Doesn't that sound like somebody you know? Doesn't that sound like you? There was one particular Passover week where I started to hear rumblings of a man who was on his way to and entering Jerusalem. And some of the Hebrews were saying, "This is the man who will overthrow the governors, who will overthrow Caesar, who will deliver us." And I started to get nervous. But the more I heard about the rumors, the less nervous I became. Because one of the rumors that I heard was that when he came to Jerusalem, he didn't come riding a steed. He didn't come in a chariot with a sword and a shield. He came in riding on a symbol of peace. Like Pax Romana, maybe. He came in riding on the colt, the foal of a donkey. And then I heard that there were all kinds of people from all kinds of backgrounds and all kinds of persuasions and all kinds of beliefs who had sacrificed everything that they knew to follow this Hebrew. And all these people from all these different backgrounds with him were experiencing peace. And I started to be quite amazed and a little bit thankful that maybe this Passover was going to be different. And I was going to have a Hebrew of influence who wanted the same thing I wanted. The peace of Rome. Pax Romana. So imagine my surprise when just a few days later, the Hebrew religious leaders brought him before me, arrested, and for me to put him to death. They came all the way to the governor's headquarters, but not inside. They wouldn't come in because to enter into my headquarters in their religious practice would have defiled them for their Passover. So they all waited outside while Jesus was inside my headquarters. And I went out to meet them. And I said, "What accusation do you have against this man?" They totally dodged that question. And so I said, "You crucify him then. I'm not doing this." And they said, "No, according to our laws, he must be crucified, but also according to our laws, we can't be the ones to do it." Pax Romana, right? Trying to maintain the peace. Let me go in and talk to him. So I go inside and try to decide where to start my line of questioning. "Are you the King of the Jews?" I asked. He responded, "Are you asking that of your own accord, or did you hear it from someone else?" I felt like maybe he was accusing me of doing this to him. So I said, "Look, I'm not Jewish. I didn't do this to you. Your religious leaders, your people have delivered you over to me." And he said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it was of this world, there would have been an uprising as soon as they attempted to deliver me over to the Jewish religious leaders." I didn't fully understand what he meant by that, but I knew I had caught him. "Ha! So you are a king." He said, "You have said so." And then he said, "For this purpose I was born. For this purpose I came into the world, to bear witness about the truth." And then he said, "Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." Now, I have a complicated relationship with the truth. It turns out that if the primary directive of your life is the peace of Rome, Pax Romana, the truth and peace don't always get along very well. So I scoffed at him. I said, "What is truth?" And I went back out to the crowd. I could see that they were getting angrier and angrier. And I was trying to think of loopholes to both satisfy the crowd and let this man go free, because I couldn't find any guilt in him. And I told them that. I can't find any guilt in him, but how about this? Your tradition allows me to release to you one prisoner at Passover. How about I release to you this King of the Jews? And they cried, not this man. Release to us Barabbas. Barabbas. Just the mention of Barabbas sets me on edge. He is a murderer. He is an insurrectionist. He fights against everything that I stand for. The peace of Rome. Pax Romana. And yet, I could see in the eyes of this crowd that we were not far off from Jesus taking Barabbas' place on a cross. Does that sound like anyone you know? Don't you Christians believe that Jesus took your place on the cross? Isn't your name Barabbas? Isn't your name Barabbas? Isn't your name Barabbas? Still trying to come up with loopholes. Ways that I can satisfy the crowd and achieve peace and spare this man's life and achieve justice at the same time. So I thought, maybe if they see me punish him, they won't force my hand in killing him. So I had him flogged. There's something that happens in the mind of a soldier who is still on active duty but has no battlefront to run to. There's something that happens in the heart of an army that has become an occupation force. So many of them still have an appetite for violence, and they seek opportunities to feast. The Roman soldiers beat, flogged, and humiliated this man beyond recognition. I tried to tell them, I can't crucify this man unless I find something wrong that he did. And they said, we have another accusation. According to our laws, he has committed blasphemy because he claims to be the Son of God. And when I heard this, it terrified me. I had already started feeling like there were two items on a collision course that could not be pulled apart from each other. This collision of peace and justice that could not be reconciled. But now at this claim that he claimed to be the Son of God, I started to sense that there was a force at play in this whole situation that I could not quite perceive or understand, let alone control. And I went back in and I said, where are you from? And he wouldn't answer. And I said, why won't you answer me? Do you not know that I have the authority to crucify you or let you go? And he said, you would have no authority unless it was given to you from above. And again, I didn't know exactly what he meant by that. But it almost sounded as though he was letting me off the hook a little bit for what was happening to him. And then he said, therefore, the one who delivered me to you has committed the greater sin. I'm supposed to be in charge. I'm supposed to be the governor, administering peace, leading peace, enforcing peace, and here I am in my own headquarters, and this man, this prisoner, is extending mercy to me with his words. At that moment, I decided in my heart there was no way I could crucify this man. But then when I went back out to make that known, I knew in my mind that there was no way to achieve peace without doing it. It was this war between my heart and my head. This war between peace and justice. I knew that if I did not crucify him, I would have an insurrection on my hands. But if I did, I would have his blood on my hands. And so I went to go sit in the judgment seat. Justice or peace. Justice or peace. Truth or Pax Romana. And while I was sitting in that seat, a panicked messenger handed me a note from my wife. And she said that she had been having dreams about this Jesus. That the dreams were tormenting to her. And she urged me to have nothing to do with him. Now I was sure there was something at play in this whole situation I could not understand, let alone control, and it had reached its way into my home. Well, I'd love to have nothing to do with him. But if I let him go, that's not having nothing to do with him. And if I crucify him, that's not having nothing to do with him. Justice or peace. So I set aside justice. In favor of what was politically expedient. I set aside justice for the sake of popular opinion. I set aside justice for the peace of Rome. Pax Romana. I tried. I came out before the crowd, washed my hands, and said, I am innocent of this man's blood. I wanted it to be true. But the truth is that I couldn't find any fault in Jesus. And I couldn't wash any fault off of me. I couldn't find any fault in Jesus. And I couldn't wash any fault off of me. Does that sound like anybody you know?